Hello guys and welcome back to our channel Barca Admirers for your daily dosage of all the latest news updates and transfers roundup regarding Barcelona. In this episode, we take a look at the rigid rules and regulations that Xavi has imposed on the players from his very first training session itself that he conducted yesterday in the morning. I was going through them and I really thought to myself that if the players can comply with these new laws, the entire structure of the club can be turned around completely on its head. On the other hand, we also take a look at the various transfer targets that Barca are lining up at the special request of Xavi himself in the winter market, and I really hope that this man knows what he is doing along with many more such updates. So make sure to watch this video till the very end without skipping over any part. Now before we get started, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, share it with your Blaugrana friends and click on the bell icon and press all to turn on all the notifications. Now before we begin to go through the new set of rules, it's important to have a brief overview of how the situation was before the club. The players arrived at training almost at midday, while very little attention to physical preparation was paid, which, as I've said many times before, was the cause of several recurring injuries at the club, besides the incompetence of the medical staff of course. That's what Xavi has come in to change. As per the report of Spanish news publication Mundo Deportivo, Xavi Hernandez directed his first training session in the morning yesterday. The new Blaugrana coach wanted to arrive early because he considers that there is a lot to do, and he showed up at 8:35 a.m., almost 2.5 hours before the start of the training. Journalist Tony Joan Martí, who is also a very close friend of Xavi, reported that his message to the dressing room is very clear. There needs to be optimism, there needs to be changes in new rules, and more demand and criticism for what happened in Balaidos. His clear message to the dressing room was, when you are 3-0 ahead, you can never end up drawing the game. On the other hand, yet another top-tier journalist, Javi Miguel, reports that Xavi's new orders dictate that from now on, the internal matters will be governed within the Blaugrana dressing room. The players must be an hour and a half before training. The goal is to have time to prepare for the training sessions and to be able to make some individual talks. Encouragingly, complying with it, all the players did indeed arrive at the Ciutat Esportiva 2 hours before the training started yesterday. Some of the talented youngsters from Barca B, such as Elias, Arnau Comas, Mika Marmol, Alvaro Sanz, Ejajuli Abde, Yulga and Aranda all trained with the first team. Now we need to keep in mind the 6 fundamental changes that Xavi is going to make at Barca before we take a deeper look at the rest of the regulations. As reported by Spanish news outlet Direct the Goal, they are: no more foreign trips for Gerard Piqué, more hours of team training at the Ciutat Esportiva, a complete ban on personal training unless of course is very much required, a renewal of the medical services, a non-negotiable style of play, and an absolute control over social media. Also, Xavi has, with immediate effect, introduced new rules that every player must follow in the dressing room, and it's that all the players must observe extreme punctuality. Everyone is expected to arrive an hour before the training. Even mobile phones are banned from the dressing room. Moreover, there will be extreme privacy within the squad, and leaking any information to the press will not be tolerated. Also, there will be no eating of junk food, whether at home or in the dressing room. Players will be encouraged to focus on whole grain and cereal types of food, indicating that we might see a shift in the diet of the boys as well. Each player is expected to wear the Barca training kit at all times when around the dressing room. Personal clothing will be locked away until training or until all the Barca activities are finished. Now I gotta say, I'm already a fan of this particular rule. Xavi is all set to re-implement the rules with which Barcelona became one of the best teams in the world, and of course the man learned it firsthand from arguably the best manager in the post-Alex Ferguson era, Pep Guardiola himself. The new coach will impose rules to expand and promote collective and individual work within the team. Xavi is clear that the physical preparation of the team has to be improved, and in his presentation he made it clear that one of his objectives is to seek an immediate solution to it. Xavi's intention is to introduce some work rules on the team. The starting point will be to mark some guidelines in the day-to-day schedule that allows the players to give up habits that Xavi understands do not benefit them or the team. The presence of the rules will not be limited to going to the Ciutat Esportiva or training. They will also implant it while going home and staying there. The idea is to extend the schedule, starting with a group breakfast in the Ciutat Esportiva that allows greater control over the diet of the players. Xavi also intends to promote exercises for the prevention of injuries as well as assign specific tasks to exploit the virtues of each player. For example, Ousmane Dembele, who is a sprinter and needs a different preparation. Now folks, I know we have seen our hopes being quashed before, but this time I feel like there's a faint chance of Dembele's revival under Xavi. The new manager will enhance other work aspects as well, such as the training sessions itself and specific tactics and strategy sessions. Xavi wants the squad to eat at the club as well. His ultimate goal is to strictly comply with these rules with a strict disciplinary code of what he lived with Pep Guardiola, Tito Villanova and Luis Enrique. They all arrived at the club's facilities an hour before the start of training and they lived together for many hours. Now it's not just introducing the rules that counts. On top of that, breaking the rules will now have consequences as fines have been imposed. Since Luis Enrique left the club in 2017, the penalties for minor, serious or very serious misdemeanors have disappeared, arguing that the football players are professional enough to know what they have to do and what they do not have to do. The truth is that, however, this type of management can only work in an ideal scenario, but in real life it's much more complicated. Xavi has lived in Rijkaard's era as well, as the costumes were diluted by relaxations in the rules, and as Pep Guardiola established a rigid code of conduct which ended up bearing fruit very soon. And it's not just the penalties that matter, it looks like now the squad is heading towards exponential sanctions. Journalist Tony Juan Martí explains this point. He says that the fines will now be set with a geometric and a non-arithmetic rhythm. That means that if a player is late for training on the first day, he would pay the slightest penalty, a meager sum of €100, and at the second penalty it would be 200, but if he repeats a third, it would rise to €400 and so ad infinitum. Some players in the dressing room of Luis Enrique reached even €6,000 in fines in a single season. Now another important step towards achieving a disciplined squad is ensuring that no one can return home late 48 hours before a game. The manager has been absolutely explicit about this rule. When the team is 2 days away from playing a game, it's forbidden to arrive later than 12 at night. It's considered that the player must be aware that he must arrive at the match in the best possible conditions, and one of the non-negotiable demands is to lead an orderly life, and even more so on the eve of the games. Next up, we have the promise of meritocracy, and that's what I've been looking forward to the most. You play as you train, and the meritocracy is the only way to success. Only those who train the best and who have more commitment at work will have options to become headlines. The rest will suck the bench or in the worst case scenario be summoned by the club. On top of everything, Xavi also wants a strict control of the extra sports activities. Footballers may have facets other than strictly football and they are free to do so, but if they end up affecting the performance when they need to travel or dedicate many hours to it, they will have to have the supervision of the coaching staff. The private trips of several players by plane cannot be made during the season without the explicit permission of the coach. And finally, in a bid to achieve absolute discipline within the squad, risky activities are to be prohibited. No more seeing a player surfing or riding an electric bike. This type of practice is punishable as a very serious offense and would pass into the hands of the legal department as it's considered a flagrant breach of the contract. I can hopefully say that Gerard Piqué might just retire after this season. Speaking about Gerard Piqué, El Chiringuito reports that Xavi has forbid Gerard from attending the Davis Cup presentation in the next Tuesday. News outlet Diario Montero reports that Xavi has banned the use of social media for the players on match days and the day before the matches. The use of phones in the Ciutat Esportiva, in the dressing room and in the bus are completely banned. Now the thing with all these strict rules is that they all sound really good and nice and most importantly promising. However, we have had similar reports of such sets of rules being imposed at the club before, and apparently they did not work. Now of course, there are several reasons for it. For example, Ernesto Valverde wasn't exactly a strict believer in all these rigid customs, while Quique Setién tried his best to inject discipline into the squad, but the senior Catalan lobby was too much powerful to let the coach function independently. The likes of Gerard Piqué, Roberto and Alba, well, let's just face it, they are simply lazy at this point. Piqué is now more focused on extra footballing activities, while Roberto, I'm not sure if he's focused on anything at all. They like to lazily idle their hours away, and they've gotten used to life being easy at the club. Now here's where my doubts come in. These rules sound impressive, but to which extent can Xavi implement them? Because these useless players were once his teammates, and I'm quite sure it won't be a particularly easy thing for him to reprimand them if they don't play by his rules. However, if implemented, these new regulations will indeed take us back to the top. Now with all these rules and regulations set into the club, let's have a brief look at the transfers. Journalist Miguel Blasquez reports that Xavi is now looking into the possible signing of Dani Alves. The Brazilian defender dreams of succeeding and ending his career at Barca, and the club thinks that he can still help the squad. As per the report of journalist Bruno Andrado, Alves is still in Spain, and until Sunday, he will hold a meeting with the Barcelona management. He wants to return to the club and has said this to Laporta. Both the sides are interested in getting closer, but the details of the agreement still need to be discussed. On the other hand, journalist Xavi Torres reports that Barca wanted to make a trade deal between Dembele and Sterling in this summer, but the English player did not agree. Manchester City asked for Araujo instead, but Barca refused. Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola commented on Barcelona's interest for Raheem Sterling. He said that he has honestly no idea about it, but if Barca are interested in any of their players, he is convinced that they can come get them, because Barca continues to be attractive and more than attractive. Speaking about Dembele, however, Spanish news outlet Sport reports that Barca have offered Dembele a contract based on the number of games that he plays. Meanwhile, news outlet Direct the Goal reports that Barca's winter targets are Cavani, Raheem Sterling, Dani Olmo and Bakambu.
That's all the news we could collect for you today. If you enjoyed this video, then please subscribe to our channel, press the bell icon, select all and enable all the YouTube app notifications. We have always been overly impressed by your response to our videos. So in this episode, we have decided to set a target of 550 likes. Please Qlers, help us reach our target on this episode as well. Now that's all we have for today's episode. I'll see you guys tomorrow in the next video. Until then, stay safe. Visca el Barça, Visca el Catalunya.